into this video, I want to do a recap of today's action as well as go over some of the stocks I'm watching tomorrow and onward through the rest of the week. So let's start things off by talking about RCAT. This is a trade I took today and I will break it down for you guys. So I start off usually looking at things on the daily. So RCAT was one of the strongest names a few days ago. Obviously, we had this really strong uptrend above the 9 EMA, trending above it consistently all the way from the first trading day of the year till the 22nd, where it peaked off at 18, starting the year off at $8. So very large swing there, consistently above the moving averages, and then it started to pull back, shape up nicely. I was like, okay, this is going to be a good breakout candidate. And the last 2-3 sessions kind of pulled this thing back. And now it is retracing to the 21 moving average, which also it hasn't been below since the first trading day of the year, or since the last trading day of 2025. So the 21 moving average obviously contains a lot of weight when a stock's pulling back to it. And I was looking for a pivot trade. So let me break down the trade. I marked this green line here, marks the location of that 21 moving average. Then I drop my time frame down. So I drop it down, and then I can see here. And I'm looking on the 30-minute for a pivot entry. So this is my entry here. I took it at 1360. So 1360, I liked it. You know, we see it's pulling off the lows, had a good little pivot, and then I placed the stop loss below the first green candle on that pivot. So it's like 2 consecutive green candles. I placed my stop loss right here at 1330, and I'm entering at 1360. So only 30 cents of risk. And obviously we have big upside if this stock were to pivot back up into this range here. And then obviously if it were to break out beyond there, I'm paid significantly. But why I like the pivots so much, they've been working well so far in 2026. It's working way better than breakouts. They've been a lot more effective. Secondly, I can get very tight entries. And for me, it's about taking small losses with high quality risk reward structure. So in this case, right, I can, when I'm risking 30 cents, if the stock makes a $3 move, 3-point move, so it goes from 13 to 16, which is a realistic move because it's just trading within its, prior range that it's seen the last few days, that's already a 10R trade. So that'll pay for 10 consecutive losses in theory of the same size. That's why I like the pivot so much. Breakouts, one of the main downsides of breakouts, which I love breakouts, there's a lot of advantages, but one of the biggest downsides of breakouts is that oftentimes the stock is breaking out and it looks amazing, but it's already extended from low of day or the stop loss in which I would choose. Therefore, the risk reward is not the best. So with these pivot trades, yes, the win rate at times can be lower, but the risk reward is amazing. We get really tight entries. So I took RCAT. It is up after hours, 1.4% after hours. So it did pull off the highs. It was doing really well, and it pulled back in the last hour like many stocks. But anyway, I think this level can be pivotal. I took it as a pivot trade, so I'd assume so. And I think tomorrow if the stock opens higher, we could see a push back into these levels and possibly for the stock to break out. Oftentimes you see great pivot trades in strong stocks that are basically shaking out weak hands and then returning back to the breakout level. They break out, the weak hands actually flow in after the breakout, and it just fuels everything. So Cypher is another one I took. This one is actually below all its moving averages, but on the weekly, on the daily, it's below all its moving averages. On the weekly, it's hitting that 21. Also, if you look at the weekly structure, it looks well supported here. It would make sense if it bounces off this level because we are seeing higher lows and lower highs. The weekly chart is really good, and I figured, okay, like the risk reward on this trade was really, really nice. So this was my entry. I took it here at 1560, 1565, I believe, with a stop loss at 1538 or 36. So very, very tight risk here. And I was able to assume a lot of shares for not a lot of risk. So it definitely makes the trade worth it. The trade is obviously more likely to fail than it is to succeed, but as you would expect, because if it succeeds, this is like a 10-hour trade quite easily. And if it were to break out, right, if it were to pull back into, let's just look at the weekly again, if it pulls back into this upper level of the range and then breaks out, I mean, this trade could be a 30R, 40R. So obviously, over 40 trades, we're going to have a few winners and they're going to be very large. So trades like these are always worth it. Win or lose, I feel good about the trade I took here. Now, ASTS, this is a stock that was also very strong. Space stocks have all kind of pulled back over the last couple of days. This is mainly on the back of the Trump Fed nomination pick, less likely to cut rates. The market was kind of anticipating a Fed president nominee that would, slash rates aggressively, as Trump would like, but this guy seems a little bit less likely to do so than previously anticipated, so that obviously hurts a lot of growth stocks. Anyway, ASTS, the action we saw out of ASTS recently was great. It was absorbing all the dips. Anyway, it's pulled back the last couple days. It tried breaking out on Friday, and huge swing from 130 all the way back down to 108, and then today it was also down. I think it pulls into this moving average, or very close to it. It's, this is a support level right here at 103, as you can see. Anyway, I'm looking for a pivot here. I think that's going to be a key thing to watch for ASTS because it's had a lot of relative strength, and it's just something I would definitely want to watch. RDW, similar situation. It's touching the 21 currently at the moment on the daily. I think it's a little oversold here. I think this is an extended sell, and it's going to look for a relief pop. This is another name that's been trending pretty well. And, it did get, it had this breakout. It couldn't do it, couldn't send it, and it kind of, fell apart. But I do think it's oversold here, pulling back into the 21. I think this is definitely a nice reversal candidate. TE, this is a stock that has been trending higher as well. There's a common theme here. I'm looking for stocks that have had momentum. That's what we usually do. That's what most of my watch list is comprised of. Stocks that have momentum. We want to buy high, sell higher in most situations. So anyway, TE, this is a breakout candidate. Every time it's went into the 916 level, 920 level, it's been rejecting. But it's also making higher lows. Volume is tapering a little bit. I think this is the type of stock that can eventually see that breakout into the teens and higher. The stock has been on fire. It's a good sector. Energy, solar, that's where we want to be right now. It's a good theme to be in. So yeah. BE is probably the best looking stock on the watch list. Unfortunately, it has earnings on Thursday. So that's going to make things difficult. But this is actually the only stock on the watch list that looks to be a breakout candidate. I think if it breaks out here, let's assume there weren't earnings, this thing could break out and make a really strong move. Unfortunately, it probably won't do that because the market will anticipate the earnings report. Secondly, even if it were to break out, it makes it difficult for me because I don't like to be in positions into earnings. It's just a lot of risk to assume, gap down risk. So yeah, but BE is really strong, and at the very least, it tells us where the money's flowing into the theme, and this is another clean energy related stock. So the clean energy stocks in general are looking really strong, and again, we have to follow what themes are doing well. APLD is a stock that I've been watching for a little bit now. It's been one of the best performers of the last 7-8 months. It's been on an absolute tear on the weekly, and it is trying to make new all-time highs. So I'm watching this structure, and I'm just looking at it from the perspective of a pivot trade back into a level where it could actually try breaking out. It tried breaking out last week, and it couldn't do it. Like RDW, looking a little oversold with these three reds, trying to pivot here. I'll see how the pivot continues tomorrow. Possibly an entry on the pivot on the way back up, and then you add more into a potential breakout. That would be the ideal situation for APLD. AMPX is really strong. This is something we traded. I was talking to someone and I marked out this trade we took on it in Q4 of last year, or this is Q3, I guess. But anyway, this was an amazing run we had on this stock. Great trade. And it kind of, settled, pulled back, and has regained its strength. And this was a key level. This 14 level, 1370 level is really key. It's floated back into there, tested a couple times, rejected, but also anchoring itself to the 12, 28, 1230 level. So it's going to build a range here, and it will definitely be on watch for a breakout. I think this will give us a really good opportunity soon enough. Iron has been kind of the leading data center stock of the last year or so. Um, it's been a stock I've been watching. It's been on the watch list for most of 2026. It's pulling back. It tapped the 50 and pivoted off of that. Now it's just back above the 21. I want to see how this plays out, possibly for a retracement trade back into 60 level, and then from there it can break out. So if I can assume a position somewhere in this value area, I'll already be up quite a bit when it attempts to break out over the 60 level. If it breaks out from there, I could buy more, have a much larger position, and overall the trade will be of lower risk because I'll already have raised my stop to break even, locking me in for like a break even trade at that point, and just as the breakout's beginning. Rocket Lab was looking really good up until 3 days ago, and like a lot of space or more of the speculative aerospace stocks, 3 consecutive red days, it's pulling into the 50 moving average. So I want to see how it interacts with it. I don't think I would buy it tomorrow, but I just want to see how it interacts with that level. I think that's an important test. UMAC, similar situation. Robotics, obviously a strong theme. The stock has done really well. I actually think this is an area where it can receive a pretty nice sharp bounce back into the 16 level. So I definitely want to see how it interacts tomorrow with this 50 EMA. CRML, this is another 50 EMA trade. And I don't love these because they're kind of falling knives at the moment, but I want to see how it interacts with the EMA. Metals have obviously been, and rare earths have been really strong. They've recently been pulling back with a strong dollar, but I want to see how it interacts nonetheless. Same thing with UAMY. I'm not going to elaborate on it too much, just very similar situation. SIDU, another space stock, hitting the 50. I want to see how it interacts there. This stock is oversold relative to its recent action. I mean, I'm not saying the valuation of the company still may be very overvalued. I'm not necessarily talking about the company specifically. From a technical standpoint, it is a little oversold here in my opinion. Hitting the 50, we'll have to see how it interacts with it, and that's just what I'm looking for. Because if these stocks are all interacting well, bouncing off the 50, that speaks volumes about the stocks that are just off the 21. And those are the ones I'm most interested in, right? The ones that are bouncing off the 21, still kind of within trend. But if the stocks are feeding off of the 50 well, the stronger names are also going to do well. So it's really almost a gauge of the health of the growth stocks, which are, every stock on this list is a growth stock. That's kind of what I like to watch. Those are the stocks I focus on the most. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, put it in the comment section below. The Discord, where I alert all my trades, and the community, it is in the link in description. Also, my X link in description. Go check those out. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.